I myself. And so I just went. Went in for the meeting. Yeah. It's good. It's
It's on delay, that's a little freaky.
Yeah, I gotta always mute it so it doesn't freak everybody out.
She's here.
Hey.
Hey.
Oh, you're okay there. I'm good.
It's just 6 o'clock.
No. You're right on time. No.
You're gonna turn my phone off.
Sean missed the colors.
You know, I never could bring that either. They use that. They bring in mid. Six on there.
Yes.
Is it just? Oh, I smell.
CJ.
I think I'm okay.
Well, that's good.
Was it busy day?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
It's still the spray.
Very much.
I know, it was on purpose. I'm not wearing.
I wore it brown one of the weekend when this pouring rain. I'm like,
Oh, wait, look at it, look at it.
First.
Snow. Watch the snow, Laura.
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
This is my last check. I'm like, I don't think.
I get
Take care. Deal with it.
Where my beach a lot. It's like, it's 50.
I need to give you.
I had to put it. It's terrible.
I have my.
I was supposed to make a show that kids gorgeous.
Alright.
Yeah, but maybe.
But we did want to play it. Where did that house? People know. It's also November. Every time we make these meetings on Tuesday.
See, and I have the opposite anytime. Yes.
I know, we have another game tomorrow.
It's a very low.
I'm sitting over there by himself.
I was gonna say, I said that maybe I should go in there and sit next to Bob.
He looks
I get the sense he's used to It's very.
Like Susie.
It's in the zone right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. These are presentation mode, so you just press the arrow on the space.
My team pulls a little bit.
Okay, welcome everyone. I'm going to call to order the Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, October 24th. First order of business is to go around the table. My name is Mark Kissinger. I'm the president of the board.
Sherry Whiting, I'm the board treasurer. Laura DeBetta, trustee. Sarah Patterson, secretary and trustee.
Robert Schofield, special counsel of the library.
Suzanne Ingrano, principal with Ashley McGraw Architects.
Albert Eller, senior architect, Ashley McGraw Architects. CJ Goodwin, project manager at Schoolhouse Construction.
Gail Sacco, trustee.
Michelle Walsh, co-vice president. And on camera, Caroline Brancatelli, co-vice president.
Thank you. Jeff, you want to-
Oh, sorry. Worried about the tech stuff. And I'm Jeff Kirkpatrick, library director.
We have one member of the board, Lisa Scholl, who's excused today. She's on a travel, so she's excused today. So the first order of business is public participation.
Mary. Good evening, I'm Mary Service. And, what do you? Hello?
Yes.
Mary Service, I'm a member of Friends and on the board, but I'm not speaking for either entity. What I've heard on the street, so to speak, is that date for the bond is December 12th, and I would urge you to reconsider. If the proposal, as I understand, is being revised, and you will need significant time to educate, publicize, promote the bond proposal. And as it's, and given the importance of this project, library, I think you need to. So I would ask you to reconsider the December 12th vote, if indeed that's the date thought of. And in concluding, I can only thank you, excuse me, for all the work you do for the bond.
Somebody that takes the microphone first.
How we doing? I think it's on.
It is on. That better?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
right close.
Okay. There we go. I'm going to take this opportunity to hand something out that I hope I have enough copies. If not,
Okay.
I guess there's a Xerox machine somewhere.
Sure.
I'm actually glad to see folks from Ashley brought here today because perhaps you can answer my questions a little bit better than the board members. What you have here is some information that I found online for 4 library projects in the Capital District and surrounding areas. Some of them start in 2021. All of the projects are approximately the same kind of scope that we have here, where more rooms being added to the library, there are community rooms being added, there are upgrades of bathrooms and that kind of thing, with the exception of Clifton Park, which is a brand new library. It's notable, obviously, from my comment there that Gilderland came in $250,000 under budget for their new project. And so given the information on the sheet that I've given to you, I'm having some great difficulty understanding how the proposed Bethlehem Public Library project is coming in at $36 million. So I ask you, anybody who would like to answer, what is going into this particular project that costs more than a brand new award-winning library in Clifton Park, which came in at a price of, in today's dollars, $25 million. No response? Nice, thank you.
Jeremy?
Good evening, I'm Jeremy Johannesson. I am here as a patron of the library, not in relation to my role with the Friends of the Library. So I'm speaking strictly for myself as an individual. Thank you to all the trustees for your service. As you consider the scheduling of this important bond vote, I implore you to reconsider the December date and ask that you strongly consider co-locating the vote along with the school budget vote in May. As Mary mentioned, we have a scant 2 months before that December date, and I think that trying to rush the process that quickly will doom that effort to failure, which will then cost the library the expense of running that vote again. And more importantly, it'll cost the community the opportunity of the full project, because the only way that we're going to justify a second vote is to revise the project down further. And that will cost an entire generation of folks in this community. It's not hard to find the information on the school budget votes. They pass overwhelmingly every year. So I would argue that our best chance for our first time passage for this bond is on the school budget ballot, and would implore you all to take whatever steps are necessary to encourage and convince the school to support that move. And I thank you for your time.
Bonnie Goldsmith.
Hello. Are we allowed to ask questions or not?
You can.
Oh, so you don't have to answer. Is that how it works?
Right, this is your public comment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Bonnie Goldsmith and I'm a resident of Del Mar. I've been a frequent patron of the library for the last, can you hear me? 30 plus years. I love to visit multiple times each week, and when my children were young, they joined me and they frequently use the library during their school years. I appreciate the years of effort by the Board of Trustees and library staff to make this library such an important asset to the residents of Bethlehem. A library which is set to cost $36 million if approved by the residents of the town. I understand that $2+ million have already been spent on engineers and architects to create the design / construction plan. My primary appeal regarding this is to 1, hit the pause button, 2, revisit the proposal and redesign the renovation and expansion plans with a lower budget. 3, if you haven't already, and I would have liked to ask if you have, but I guess maybe you won't answer. If you haven't already I ask that you engage the services of the Dormitory Authority of the State of New York, and similar organizations that provide cost-effective ways of upgrading and financing the expansion and interior renovation of existing facilities. I ask, number 4, that you revisit the wish list that was solicited from community members, which has somehow snowballed into a $36 million project. Wish lists are just that, wishes. we need to have a board of trustees that carefully weighs wishes with the realities of such an extensive project. Likely cost overruns, projected costs versus real costs, as construction materials costs continue to rise, and an inevitable tax increase to residents, regardless of those on moderate, low, or fixed income.
30 seconds.
This wish list was created without a community needs assessment, and thus it remains a wish list, not a list of actual needs. I didn't realize, sorry, how short. Okay, one aspect of this proposed plan is to build a 250-person auditorium. This seems especially excessive, given the occasional use it would have. I doubt we will be needing an auditorium with so much capacity more than a few times a year at best. Thanks.
John Fennelly.
My name is John Fallon, and I've been a resident of Delmar for 44 years. And my wife and I have always felt that the library is one of the jewels of this community. And I certainly have taken advantage of it many times over the decades. I'm here tonight not so much to question the project. I do have questions and concerns about that, but we'll leave that for another venue. I came earlier today and talked to Jeff, who was very helpful in terms of talking about the planned vote. And like other people who've come before me, I would strongly suggest that the vote date of December 12th be reconsidered. I think it's, given the importance of the project and the need either to have the community approve or disapprove it, there needs to be more time. I was pleased to learn from Jeff, and I would ask you to confirm that there'll be absentee ballots available and also early voting. Say is that if the proposed date of December 12th follows the October 23rd meeting of the Bethlehem Central School District, that leaves 7 weeks from that approval to the date of the vote. I'm not sure how the community can be informed in those 7 weeks about such an important project, a vote. So I would ask you to, ideally, it should be the same time as the school district budget vote in May. So thank you very much.
Any other public comment? Okay, thank you very much. We'll now move on to the architect's presentation. We'll have Suzanne.
Let me just try to get this to share properly.
Put your mic on too, Suzanne.
Can you hear me?
No, just kidding. Yeah. Oh, you're green. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Good evening. So we're going to provide a little bit of a design update and the status of the project. So starting with a little bit of the agenda. So kind of recapping on the project goals, looking back to where we started a couple years ago, and why this project started. And then looking at the current status of the plan and scope review. Cost and schoolhouse. CJ is here. We can dive into that a little bit more, and then we'll look at design updates, including a flyover video, and some of the things we have planned for the coming months. So again, looking to these are the 5 whys that the library came to us with, and that were something that led the initial investigations as we looked at the feasibility study and the options going forward. So the first one, addressing the outdated and aging components of the library facility. Things in there around that the library has not had significant changes in about 50 years. There are some hazmat containing materials in the building, and that limit has good square footage. It is not suitable for the staff or public needs, and it makes the staff's operations a little bit more difficult. Number 2, add in-demand space for library users. So thinking about the meeting and studying rooms in those areas, that meeting spaces, and that they're currently limited, and that we're talking about. And that is at a capacity, if you were to put 100 people in this room, that wouldn't really facilitate much of a conversation or meeting, that sort of thing. And then improve the ability for these types of rooms to be used for other functions like performances. Number 3, add in-demand collection space and improve the library function. So your library circulation is often very crowded and limits what is being offered. The teen area is very lacking. It's very small right now. Addressing curbside pickup and those functions, and then also improving and expanding staff space for better workflow, safety, efficiency, and adequacy. Number 4, enhance accessibility of the library facility and resources. So improving accessibility and safety throughout the parking area. Reduce the amount of travel distance between parking and entry, and then improve the sense of arrival and wayfinding. And then number 5, enhance the library's environmental sustainability footprint. So increase energy efficiency and thus operational savings. Update the green space around the library. What needs to improve the library as a good neighbor. So moving along from there, we also developed a purpose statement based on a lot of the feedback we got. We went through a couple different exercises to draw out why the Bethlehem Public Library is a community resource environment that's nestled within the fabric of the community. Designed in a way that's welcoming, simple to navigate, modern, and adaptable to a variety. Optimize the library so that both patrons and staff have cohesive environments to suit their evolving needs and to support the next generation of collaboration, discovery, and learning.
Bigger so that people can read it. We're lucky Gail has this right in front of me, but otherwise I can't see. Yeah.
So what happens on the next page?
Thanks.
Sure. Just revisit that zooming every time if there's something too small. I'm going to turn it over to Albert to look at the plan and scope reviews. Let's see.
So we're looking at an image of the site plan, looking from above. And first, just to understand where the pedestrian entries are, there's still a main entrance off the parking on the north side, just like there is now. There's also a secondary pedestrian entrance off of Borthwick. And the third is where it is now on Delaware, same location. And in fact, that whole elevation, that whole facade that faces Delaware really remains as is. And that was all part of the SHPO review to meet the historic demands of the site. So the way that, so those are the 3 pedestrian entries. And the vehicular entry is still off of Borthwick, and the circulation is much like it is now. It goes down and then around and back out, but there's a secondary loop off Borthwick, and that serves a couple things. There's the book drop off, and then there's a book pickup. So the idea is that you can keep that traffic away from the building and the patrons that are walking. One of the important things that we were trying to maintain is we understand and appreciate and really love this green space that you have around the building now in the gardens. And so we're trying to maintain that, and you can see in the site plan. So that the addition is on this north side. There's 27,000 square feet of existing building that remain, that gets 100% renovated because it's over 50 years old. So when I say, you know, it gets new infrastructure. And then the idea is you still have the area for, right now, I think you have a tent for the summer theater. And this is a little more children friendly, where we're having a pavilion and stage, and we're using the building and the roof of the building as the stage area, and it's a backdrop for that children's area. So it's about 20,000 square feet of addition. It's really 19,000 and 27,000 square feet of existing building. And when you talk about the cost, the addition is about 60% of the cost. and the addition is about 40%.
I'm not understanding what you're saying. The 19,000 square foot addition is 50%,
40.
40, because we used addition for both, so,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
So here's a floor plan, you know, before we were looking at from the roof view. Now this is the plan itself. So down here this is the Delaware entry. And here's the other two entries that I spoke about. And really everything, this is all the existing library. So I said it gets new infrastructure, heat, plumbing, electrical, data, AV, but the plan is that these are the stacks, and then off the stacks are the different staff areas, teens areas, children's area, and then the addition is really up in here, community spaces. As Suzanne spoke earlier, I think this room is 100 people. And so the proposal is to have 3 spaces of 100 people, and this larger space, this is a temporary partition so that it can be lowered or dropped, so you have a bigger community space. And here's your 2 entries, one off the parking area and one off Borthwick. And this is just the support areas, kitchen areas, men and women facilities, storage areas, all the support for these community spaces. This children area has, as part of the program, has direct access to one of the community rooms, because the idea is you might not be using that community room all the time, but the program for the children's does demand part-time use of additional spaces. So to have those 2 adjacent was real important. The maintenance is moved to the back of the building. Right now it's on the front. In that site plan, over now the services are way back here behind the building instead of the front building and shielded and shielded from the public eye. So blue areas are staff area. The basic shell of brick on most of the existing that remains stays as is. And then the new facade is on the community rooms and is a combination of glazing and rain screen.
Sorry.
That's good.
Can you make that a little bit bigger and then just go, the colors are,
Yeah.
what the colors are labeled? The blues are what and the yellows are what?
So the purpley colors are the community spaces or the support spaces for the community rooms. Then the gray around it is that gallery corridor entry sequence. One of the things that's different from last time is that this gallery corridor is reduced in size, trying to refine the overall square footage and be mindful of the size of the addition. Also, the community rooms, as Albert was just saying, now this space here can hold a total of just under, it's 197. And so it's reduced from the 250, again, trying to be mindful of the size of this. And then the children's room is in yellow. The teen area is in this pinkish color. The darker gray are the service areas like toilet rooms, maintenance, mechanical rooms, that sort of thing. Then the main library is this turquoisey color, and then the meeting rooms are the darker shade of that. You're actually, one of the things we looked at is squeezing in another study room off to here so that now there's a larger meeting room. So the largest of the meeting rooms previously were about to hold 6 people. This now can hold about 10 people, maybe 12. So offering another size to facilitate community needs. And then the staff areas here in blue on the south side and the north side. So there's about 4 or 5 staff departments that are spread across those based on how they function with the public. And then the curbside pickup window is in this zone over here. So we just had this in for reference. This is not new. This has been the scope since before, but wanted to have it in here. If there were any questions about it, we can kind of zoom through this. Really looking at that as part of the existing rehabilitation of the library, there's a lot that's going into it. So again, you're getting a lot within the existing space renovation, new roof, kind of reconstructing the roof area where the mezzanine is coming out so that it's all one level. That also means eliminating the elevator and making it all one level and accessible to all. Replacement of all the stacks and furniture and things like that that Albert was talking about. And then there's a lot of structural things. There are some aspects of the library that today's code would not meet code. So making sure that this is setting you up for a long-term lifespan of the new renovation. A lot of site work, again, that was going back to the project goals. There's a lot having to do with site safety, parking, green space, sustainability. So a big focus on that. And then MEP, fire protection. Currently, the library does not have a sprinkler system, so that will be new. Also helps with the longevity of and lifespan of the library. Turn it over to CJ.
Thank you. Just. Can you zoom?
Yeah.
I apologize that might be hard to read. I will try to be not brief, but kind of targeted at what the areas are. I think that's good. I assume, Jeff, that some of this is available for public. They could see it if they so desired.
Yeah, it'll be up on the website. Perfect.
So just a little bit of background. Schoolhouse Construction started this process with Ashley McGraw about 2 months ago. We were brought in about midway through the process. To that point, Ashley McGraw is using a separate estimating service. We've basically, over the last 2 months, taken their estimate, did our own cross comparison with their estimate to create what you see in front of you, and to basically work with the team to determine where they are fiscally now, where they're trying to be, and then just basically reconciling that budget and where they are now. So typically a construction project would start with a concept as they would go through the early part of the process. And then through that, you'd end up in construction at the tail end. We're about in the middle of that process. And so what you see before you now is basically the reflection of that in their drawings. And so I'll just talk through a little bit of what and how we build that estimate. So as you can see on the top of that column there, there's the darker gray and then the lighter grays with the number of percentages. As the design is not complete, we kind of try to account for some of that, which could be things that are not finished in design, things that still need to be developed in design that aren't ready for a contractor to bid today. And we do that through what we call design contingency. And that design contingency typically at the start of a concept would be maybe 10 or 15%. As we work to construction, we'll reduce that percentage, push a lot of those dollars into what we would call construction dollars. And you'll see that reduce as you go. So being in the middle ground, you'll see that design contingency at about 5%. The next column, escalation, is what we would typically plan for as Ann had mentioned, materials have increased over time. We account for that in that escalation number. Typically, we see from year to year somewhere between 2 and 4.5%. When we started this process, we carried about 6.5 now for where we're looking to be when we bid, which at this point in time is somewhere in the latter part of the spring of 2025, early summer of 25, assuming the vote goes forward. And those things would kind of adjust as we would go. The general conditions items are things that would include contractors' overhead and profit, costs that aren't directly related to construction, things like facilities to support construction, office trailers, things like that, that would happen in the background of a project that contractors would need, storage of materials that is on site, insurances, etc. And then as you continue to move to your right, we have a column called allowances, which is something that we do professionally. We build into contracts so that when you hear that terrible word of change order, it's something that we try to control. We have a pot of money for when things are typically found, things that are found in error or any of those kinds of things. That there is a set of money that the contractor would include that would be less their overhead and profit. So it saves the library a little bit of money on things that we could find that maybe weren't accounted for. And then the last part of that, again, as we are not done with the design process, we're not through the whole bidding process. We keep a contingency of bid contingency, understanding again, as they finish a lot of those dollars, which stay in construction. And then what you see horizontally below that first additions and renovations is really just how we build the estimate itself with materials and labor. So windows, doors, flooring, ceilings, any finishes, those are all located and billed based on how much is on the drawings, how much there is in the building. And then we build those sort of across to get to the total. And then as we work that total across, we get to total construction at bid time, which would be down towards the bottom. And so what you'll see is two columns there. It's kind of split off. So as I had mentioned, we started this process with one building design. We've been refining that to bring the costs down, understanding that, we want to try to be at a certain dollar figure. We've done a number of meetings and scope reductions, finish reductions, program reductions. Ashley McGraw's group has kind of explained, which have brought us to a $36.9 million price tag. And that's kind of the basis of what we've done to date so far and what you see for dollars. And that includes the most recent reductions, which is bringing the building down to about 46,000 square feet, as opposed to what was at 51,000 square feet. And building in what are all the other contingencies outside of that. So attorneys' fees, our fees, design fees that haven't been paid, costs for construction such as structural testing, testing and monitoring for abatement processes, which you guys have a decent amount of in this project. And then keeping aside a contingency for construction for things that maybe weren't necessarily understood were needed during the design process, which is sitting at about 5% at the bottom. That's sort of our rainy day fund. Should we find that as we take walls down, there's a wall that wasn't planned to be taken down, but is not safe to stay up, use those kinds of monies to take that wall down and leave the building in better shape than we found it. I mean, that's basically the plan for the estimating piece of this. It's a lot of numbers. I know what you see up there is a lot. A lot of thought and concern has gone into that in getting to this point, and we'll continue to do that.
Okay, so moving into the design update, a big piece of this is building upon the last round of renderings and visuals that you all saw, primarily focusing on the children's area design and making sure that that is meets the functional goals as well as kind of what the community is looking for in the children's area, as well as kind of refining some of the exterior. One of the aspects of the green loop and the green space around it, looking at how we make sure that comes to life in the process. So the design, just again, as a little bit of a recap, we really wanted it to embody the essence of the library and your community. So kind of thinking through, we did some activities around the essence of the library and the community, and a lot of those aspects do coalesce around that having green space, having spaces where people can feel active and engaged, as well as suiting the needs of a lot of different people. So multi-generational, people from 0, 100 plus, and being able to support those needs across the board. Being welcoming, cozy, and responsive to the needs of the community. So again, as we took those elements, along with some of the other design drivers you would have previously seen, the main piece around this is to connect and balance. So it's a place that can accommodate everyone individually and as a collection of diverse community members, connection to nature, connection to the exterior design and the interior design, a juxtaposition of the geometric shape of the existing library as well as bringing in organic forms and some of those biophilic elements. There's ceiling elements that help meander your way through the library for wayfinding purposes, as well as those organic forms. And then using the complexity of the stacks and furniture are really a balance to the overall floor plan. So thinking about that in the library, the stacks and the other offerings within the space are really everything. So how does the rest of the design balance that? And then utilizing design elements to denote loud versus quiet, open versus closed, and that sort of thing. And then again, as a recap here, some of the images that were the most well-liked in terms of capturing the vibe and the essence of what you'd like to see in your library. As well as the exterior, as we look at kind of having the new addition be part of and contextual to the spirit of the library, as well as in line with the existing architecture and what that might look like. And so a couple of updates on exterior rendering. So this is what we're looking at for the pavilion stage area. There still needs to be some refinements. For instance, we're showing some interesting features here, wanting to look at coordinating with the library for story walk or other elements that are engaging and for patrons to discover different things along their walk, to encourage people to linger and spend time outside even when there isn't an activity or performance. Also looking at how we refine the stage area and make sure that it is functional for all purposes, whether it's performance or for children to play, things like that, and connecting the interior to the exterior. This is a different perspective of that same area. This would be from about where the loading dock pathway would be, looking towards parking, and how the pavilion will be a little bit tiered, but to provide a little bit of height and seating that's there all the time, but also something that's not too, doesn't have too much of a height slope to it. Moving to the interior, so when you come into the lobby, being able to have some display on various walls, and a sense of this natural meandering ceiling path that goes into the main library, and having clear visuals to connect throughout there, and also offering opportunity for furniture and seating groups, things like that. Every time we're here, there's lots of people hanging out in the hallway and providing a little bit more space, a little different opportunity for seating, to really encourage that to be a destination space rather than just a pass through. And then moving into the main library area, seeing stacks in the distance, new books in the foreground, circulation desk to the left there. Again, we're still refining exactly how the layout of the stacks might be, but thinking of it as kind of being mindful of views throughout the library, and giving some visual interest as well as functional display, things like that. And then that center piece of the library where currently the reference desk is under, making that something that is more of a living room type of space that supports people that want to read, to study, to meet in small groups, and kind of really capture the light and natural daylight that comes in there. And then also you'll kind of see in the distance some of those study rooms and the amount of connection there is there. Moving into the children's area, so this is the area we're looking at sort of at the back of the children's area. So creating an open floor space that has room for children to play and bring out toys, or have a smaller reading area, something that's dynamic that safely children can kind of climb on or sit on and read with their parents. Also bringing a little bit of whimsical elements with the columns that we already have as part of the library, and looking at ways to kind of capture those as dynamic elements. And also to define the space. So this zoning of the children's area, kind of keeping some of that lively activity in. And the stack area of the children's library provides a little bit of a buffer to the main library area. This is actually the view when you first come in the children's library and you pass by that reference desk. Then you have the most of a clear path to that back area with the large windows at the rear that kind of look out over the pavilion. You see those columns on either side and the stacks. Again, still working out exactly how those stacks will lay out, but being something that maintains visual connection throughout for safety, for the staff to be able to help their patrons, things like that. And then looking towards the teen area. So the teen area will have an open area with a lot of stacks and some quiet study zones, but then have an enclosed space where the teens can feel like it's really a space for them for gaming, for other louder activities, or if there's like SAT prep and something quieter, that they have that space that they can call their own. Those are the renderings, and I'm gonna stop sharing for a second and start a video. This is a flyover video of what the exterior will look like. The view that you see here before I press play is looking from Borthwick towards the library, and where that car is the curbside pickup. We're still refining some of the exact designs, but how that loop works and kind of how the curbside pickup is. And then you see the addition to the right with that secondary entrance. And then when I press play, kind of fly around. Seeing how the green space provides a little bit of a buffer between the parking zone and the pedestrian zone, and as well as to the library. The the glazing there on the exterior facade, so looking to have a good connection between exterior and interior. We'll also provide shading for light control depending on functions within the community room. And then here you see the main entrance that kind of leads directly into the main library via the lobby. This detached butterfly roof that evokes a sense of like an open book, as well as the library's logo. And that's the smaller community room that attaches to children's space. So it's a little bit more multifunctional. And then coming around to the pavilion space and through those windows into the children's area. And still refining some of these elements, but looking to provide a path through the green loop and this natural elements throughout, as well as the sense of discovery and connecting to library functions. Sorry that it's skipping. Beyond there would be the new location of the loading dock and the maintenance area. And around the backside of the library, looking at where some of the admin spaces will be staff spaces. And this is the entry off of Delaware. an accessible path up from the sidewalk. Background where we started at first, I pick up over on the right. Then lastly, just a little bit of what's next. Still looking to have a community informational session. We'll be working with the library staff to further develop the stack and storage. We've done a lot of programming to make sure that the spaces function properly for staff, but doing additional review, making sure the storage functions, looking at finishes, interior and exterior. And then targeting that December 12th, but I'll let Jeff and the others talk about that. And then there's the website there for lots more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Suzanne? We can't take questions from the audience. It's not a, this is a board meeting, so, and you have time for public questions.
Yes,
You can send email questions in at any point.
I sent a bunch of questions to the board. Well, Jeff didn't respond to some, but I sent a whole bunch of questions to the board several weeks ago. No response, and I asked if they could read them all.
Have fun. We trust that you'll do a good job. We don't want to do that work. Oh, by the way, here are some comments that we have about your project. And to the extent that any of those entities or agencies sent comments back, they have been incorporated into the documents that you have in front of you tonight. So we did that part. That happened over the course of the summer. The next thing is that we relied upon your engineers and architects to help populate part 2 of the form. So Jeff, if you can scroll forward to part 2. About 14 pages in if you're looking at the hard copy.
Page 17.
Keep it on one more little bit further.
Okay, I'll find it.
So part 2 is the portion of the form that actually guides you through that hard look that's required. And so we're going to actually spend some time going through part 2. What part 2 does is it basically, in a series of questions, has you as the lead agency make decisions about whether or not aspects of your project have any impact, significant or otherwise, on the environment. Should remember my password. Okay. That could have been very simple. So part two kicks off with a series of questions dealing with the first topic, which is the impacts of your project on the land. Starts with the overall project as, does the proposed action involve construction on or physical alteration of the land surface of the proposed site? Of course, we're building parts of buildings that didn't exist before, we're changing parking lots. We have beautiful designs for outdoor spaces to have group gatherings. So we know that we're going to have impacts there. And so you'll see that that box is checked yes, right at the top. And now we get more granular and we take a look at how are those things actually to impact them. So number one, the proposed action may involve construction on land where the depth to the water table is less than 3 feet. We've checked that no, or that a very small impact may occur. And all of these boxes that have been checked have been studied by your engineers. They've gone through, they've looked at technical issues, they've tied it back to the relevant questions in part one, which set forth the information gathering that you did, and they've pre-populated the form with the information that you need. So in any section where we have a yes, you can expect to see some additional check boxes with either no, small, or small impact, or in the event that there was a moderate or large impact, those boxes would be checked. And if that were the case, we would know that that's something that we would have to specifically address as part of the secret process to get you through. So I'm going to just run you through. You can see that there are, what is there, half dozen, 7 items. We did number one. Number two, the proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater. Apparently not, or they're in a very minor place that may be true. So again, no is checked. Proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface. Again, that wasn't the case in the situation here, and so no or a small impact has been checked. D, the proposed action may involve the excavation and removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material. Apparently, that's not going to be the case here, so again, no, check that box. Proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year on multiple phases. We were close on this one, but it is no and a small impact because of the way it's been phased, and they were comfortable with that, so it's okay. And then F, the proposed action may result in increased erosion, physical disturbance, or vegetation. Again, check that no. Now, with respect to the detail behind this, you'll see that there was a prepared document called the negative declaration, and that tracks the same categories that this form does. And in any case where there's something that is worth discussing or looking through or having a dialogue about, that occurs in the negative declaration. So I don't want to switch screens up there, but trustees, if you've got your negative declarations in front of you, just to align and so you can see what we've done, you take a look at the section on land in the neg deck, and you'll see how it sort of breaks down as erosion and flooding and things like that. And you'll see how it aligns with the questions that are being asked there. And those two documents taken together will ultimately form the decision that you're gonna make tonight on whether or not there's an impact that we need to see. Okay, so back to the full EA. Second is impact on geological features. The proposed action may result in modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site. There are no such landforms on the site, so we've checked that whole section no. Because that's checked no, we don't go through the subparts then. On 3, impacts on surface water. Proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies. The experts have looked into whether any of those conditions exist on your site, and they've answered the question overall no. So again, we don't go through the questions on that section. Number 4, impact on groundwater. The proposed action may result in new or additional use of groundwater, or may have the potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater or an aquifer. Here, we've checked that, yes, again, just to be certain that there could be some impact, usually typically based on the construction activities themselves. And so, you know, to be careful, they've checked yes on that thing. And now again, we go through each of those individual questions. This time there are 6 of them. So, excuse me. Proposed action may require new water supply wells or create additional demand on supplies from existing water supply wells. Again, that's checked no. Yes, we are building a bigger building. It is possible that there will be some incremental increase in water. But it's not like you're adding a swimming pool to the site. You're not adding a large water feature to the site on a regular basis. You're not materially increasing the use of the building in a way that you would have increased water and sewer usage or anything like that. And you're on public water and public sewer here. So again, it's mitigating because the system itself is designed to deal with the capacity increase that we're talking. So B, water supply demand from the proposed action may exceed safe and sustainable withdrawal capacity rate at the local supplier aquifer. No, we don't expect that to be the case. Proposed action may allow or result in residential uses in areas without water and sewer services. No, we have water and sewer services, so that's not an impact. Proposed action may include or require wastewater discharge to groundwater. No, that's not the plan for your wastewater here. It'll go into the sewer system. E, the proposed action may result in the construction of a water supply well in locations where groundwater is or suspected to be contaminated. We're not constructing water supply wells as part of the project. F, the proposed action may require the bulk storage of petroleum or chemical products over groundwater or an aquifer. No, that's not contemplated as part of your project. Obviously, if you were installing oil tanks for a heating system, that might be a concern. But of course, one of the elements of the project here is actually to move away from petroleum-based heat and to move towards ground source heat pumps and geothermal heating and cooling. So again, moving away from that. The proposed action may involve the commercial application of pesticides within 100 feet of potable drinking or irrigation sources. Again, that box is checked. So section 5, impact on flooding. The experts have told us there's not any anticipated impact on flooding, and check the box no. Impacts on air, again, they didn't see anything that required them to check boxes there, and so the overall box is checked no. Impact on plants and animals, again, nothing of concern there, and so the box is checked no. Impact on agricultural resources, no, there's no impact on being where it is, so again, the box is checked no. Impact on aesthetic resources. This is a good example of what I was talking about before of how we determine or we define the term environment broadly with respect to seeker. You know, we're now getting into things about aesthetics, the way the environmental space is viewed and seen and perceived. And again, seeker has us looking at those issues. Your experts have looked at the regs and rules and said there shouldn't be any impact there. And so again, we're overall in the box no. Moving on to section 10, impact on historic and archaeological resources. As part of the process, we talked to the State Historic Preservation Office. We got their input on the changes to the building that we made. They gave you input. They gave you thoughts. You know that as part of the project, there was a house that was acquired that will ultimately be demolished to make room for site improvements. We looked at that house, the historic significance of that house. We have a plan in place to photo document that house. It's definitely demolished. And so again, no impacts on historic or archaeological resources that we know of. And again, the box is checked. Moving on to 11, impact on open space and recreation. No impacts assessed there. Overall box is checked no. Number 12, impact on critical environmental areas. There are none present that we are aware of. You may have seen a map between the two sections of part 1 and part 2. What that map helps you do is determine whether the tax parcels that are affected by the project are within areas that are of historic concern, critical environmental concern, coastal water concern, floodplains, things like that. And of course, had any of those things hit, we would have had to go through and answer more questions in these sections. Impact on transportation. So obviously, one of the things that we can probably expect by building a bigger library is that you're going to get more use of the library. And then we did have the engineering firm take a look at what that is. They ultimately said, although we can expect some moderate growth and we are going to have some additional parking, we're doing things with that parking and we're doing things with respect to changing the entry into the lot that it'll ultimately mitigate any growth concerns there. And so you'll see within your negative deck, there's a commentary about that. What they did to look at, what studies they did, what their conclusions were with respect to that. And they ultimately make the conclusion that there isn't any significant impact. And to the extent that there's any impact at all, it's going to mitigate by the changes to the design that the architects and engineers are proposing. So again, 13, we're going to check no. Number 14, we're checking no. Ironically, you probably are going to have a very positive impact on the environment, but really what seekers focused on is negative. Impact, or section 15 is impact on noise, odor, and light. Again, they've reviewed those regs, they've reviewed those issues. They don't see anything to suggest that we need to go through that section in the overall boxes. 16, impact on human health, same issues. Nothing came to light. You could go through each one of these things. They were all no. And so the overall check boxes checked. 17, consistency with community plans. So this section has them review things like, consistency with zoning, consistent use within the area. The library project is not really changing this land in any material way, although the building is getting slightly larger. For most of the public viewscapes, it's not really changing at all. The main thoroughfare on Delaware, we've heard that facade is not significantly changed. We're not changing the character and use. It's not like we're taking a building that was once used as a car dealership and turning it into a church or something like that. There's not a major change in the use of the building because it's being maintained and continued to use as a library. So this area, the section 17, is checked now. 18 is consistent with community character. Again, for the same reasons that box is checked. So, having read all of those things, having gone through each of those questions, that is the hard look. The next part of the process is having done that work, having relied on the work done by the engineers, having looked at those questions in that form, and having read the draft negative declaration, is the board in a place where it's comfortable that this project as currently contemplated will not have a significant effect on the environment as it's currently designed. That's what part 3 leads us through. Okay? Part 3 is the question of the determination of significance. And you essentially, in part 3, make your conclusion. Now, we've told you already that part 1, 2, and 3 have been pre-populated by experts who do this work for you. We encourage you to rely on the data that they've shared. Our firm, working with those engineers and based on our expertise doing secret reviews for projects like this, have drafted the negative declaration. It's there before you get on the documents. And you'll see it's thorough. I mean, it goes through each and every one of these things for a grand total of 11 pages, sort of explaining what it is that the project does and how it addresses each of the areas of concern. It is our belief and our recommendation, and I believe that of the architects and engineers, that the project is an unlisted action. And that based on the review of the secret EAF forms, parts 1, 2, and now 3, that there is no significant environmental impact that will be posed as a result of the project. And so the very first document that we'll ask the board to put in front of it and consider is the resolution adopting a negative declaration under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, SECR, for renovation and expansion of the library in Bethlehem Park. Jeff will ultimately be able to throw that up on the screen.
Page 40.
We have the declaration up right now. I think that's probably a good document to keep up so that we can answer any questions that anybody may have. We'll jump to the resolution. So any questions?
We've had some concern from the public about the passage of the bond. If I hope this does not happen. But if, for example, the bond did go down, do we have to redo all this paperwork a second time? How does that, like,
The
it's a
answer-
lot of work and a lot of expense, so I'm just wondering.
The answer is, it depends. If the project did not change materially, then you probably could rely on the secret process being sufficient. And often that's the case, for hypothetically, the project goes down by a relatively close vote, and what the public says is it was just too much. We just thought that amount was too much. If, as part of the process of putting it back up to the voters again, you didn't do anything to expand the use of the site or expand the building, but really you pulled back from it, and the things that you took out didn't change the answers to the question, then you probably could, review it or use this review again. Honestly, we probably are going to suggest that you need to refresh that review depending on what the new project's going to be. But all of the work that's been done, and there's been a significant amount of work by Ashley McGraw and the engineers in getting us ready to this point. That won't last. We'll be able to use and reference that again, but we may very well have to come back and do another hard look at the secret process. It really is going to depend on what we're talking about and what the circumstances are. Without question, if the bond goes down and the board decides, look, we need to wholly and completely revamp this, and we're not going to do anything that's going to change the footprint of the building at all, you might have a different secret review, but it may also be a much, much more simple secret.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions. I just want to point out a couple of things on page, there's something about lighting. To make sure that the community understands that the lighting is done with dark sky compliant, I guess is the official words or whatever. And then there's other things in here that when the community goes through this, that has been taken, the architects and engineers took great care to make sure that we're in the community, that we're not going to be an eyesore of the community. I mean, it's a beautiful building, and we want to make sure that people understand great care was taken and it's going to fit within the character of the community. It's not really questions. Anyway,
I really can attest it's been a very thorough process. We've been working on this since May. And even though the project slowed for a period of time, our office and the engineers continue to get comments from other agencies. They continue to collect that information. All of that information form the draft negative declaration for your review and adoption. So I do think you have a very comprehensive package here. I think it's one that shows that the library, acting as a steward of the property, has really done the thing it needs to do. It's a hard look.
okay, any questions? Any other questions? Okay, I will take the resolution as in the packet on page 40. I need someone to offer the resolution in a second. Okay, so Michelle is going to offer the resolution. I need a second.
I'll second.
Sarah, any further discussion on the resolution? Caroline, anything? Okay. I'll take a vote. So any, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying yes or raising your hand. All those opposed, and then any abstentions. Okay. So I have Laura abstaining, everyone else in support, Lisa absent. Okay, great, that motion's passed. Thank you.
Well, congratulations. That's a big step. What we'll do is we will finalize all of the documents that are necessary to complete the supervision. We'll send you copies of that negative declaration, just adopt to the agencies that expressed interest in the project. And we will create a master set of the seeker documents that can go on file here at the library, so that if any member of the public wants to take a look at documentation that was looked at and considered, be one place that they can look at the FEF, signed forms, negative declaration, resolution. So, okay, so the next document that you want to have in front of you is the document approving the scope of the Bethlehem Public Library Capital Project. This is the document as a viewer will consider to determine that this is what we want to go forward with. It essentially says that we have heard the presentation of the architects. We understand the scope of the design and the work that is presented. We've heard the presentation of the construction manager. We've heard the budget and budgetary items being presented. And we want to go forward with that scope and that design and present that to the voters. So that resolution should be up there. Whereases are pretty consistent from document to document. They describe the project. They make sure that they relate to the fact that seeker has been done appropriately and things of that nature. And they ultimately conclude with the resolved paragraph, much that I just described, but ultimately has you approving the scope. So I'm happy to answer any questions about that one too.
So I notice in this resolution, there's not number.
I'm sorry.
There's not the 30.
No, this one doesn't have the number in. We certainly could. It's referenced by the budget that's there.
Right. Okay.
And you are going to pass a resolution that includes that number specifically in the proposition that you propose to the. But actually, Mark, to that point, I certainly, if the board wants us to amend this to say all the total cost of 36,963,180, we can do that. That's not a bad idea.
No, I just want to make sure everyone understands this is what we're voting on. I don't think within it says the budget, so I think
budget estimate for the project was
right
October 14th, and that was the slide that was included in and that that Schoolhouse presented.
Okay, yeah, I don't think the number has to be in here. I just want to make sure people have this is what we're under. This is what we're voting on for this one. So I need someone to offer this resolution as well.
All right, I'll offer the resolution to approve the scope of the library's capital project.
Need a second?
I'll second this one too.
Sarah, okay. Any further discussion on this? I'm just gonna say this is I'll use my time on this resolution because this is the resolution this has been a journey since 2017. And before that, actually, and I've been on the board a long time. I've been talking about this project a long time. I want to thank the architects and and everyone that's worked on this team. I think this is a very exciting project, and we're very hopeful that the community supports it. This is a long time coming. It's a building that needs major renovation. It's a huge investment in the community, so I fully support this resolution. So, all those in favor signify by saying yes or raising their hand. Seeing no opposition, this motion carries as well.
Everybody wants their lawyer to be extra cautious all the time, right? This is a perfect example of your lawyer being extra cautious all the time. So the next resolution that we're going to have to discuss or consider is the resolution overriding the tax cap levy limit with respect to the Bethlehem Public Library. I will be completely honest with you. It is not entirely clear that we actually have to do this because of the way you are structured as a school district public library and the interpretations that the Office of the State Controller and the New York State Office of Real Property Services have opined with respect to the tax cap law. However, I don't want to be wrong about that because the practical effect of being wrong about that is that you can't collect the taxes that are increased as a result of this vote, which means you couldn't collect the taxes that you need to collect to pay for the project debt service. That would be an untenable situation. And so because I couldn't get a 100% crystal clear view. It's my advice to you that is belt and suspenders. You pass this resolution to insulate us. I'm also a little bit concerned that we haven't gotten the final number yet from our financial advisor on the debt service that we're talking about. And it's going to be a very big number. So rather than expose ourselves to any risk in that regard, I'm suggesting that we pass this. If we find out in the next week, month, several months that this is unnecessary, we could always pass a resolution to rescind it for a period of time. That was a pretty common thing because if you didn't rescind it by a certain point, you couldn't get your, tax credits back from the government for, doing your cooperative activities. All of that's of course gone. But regardless, we can rescind it if we need to. I will just sleep much better tonight, knowing that you guys didn't do anything to jeopardize the collection of taxes. And so I'm recommending that we pass this.
So here's my question. Going down that road, my assumption is that the bond will pass and that in repayment of the bond, it will appear as part of the library's annual budget. So it will show as, that was my experience in the past, right? So that it will show that whatever millions of dollars or whatever we have to pay annually to the school district for the sake of transparency for the library building will appear as part of the library budget. Does this mean that we do not worry about the tax cap in that case?
I understand the concern that you're raising, Gail. I did actually make a minor change, and you may be familiar with the language we usually use. It usually specifically references the fiscal year budget of the library, and I took the word budget out. I'm literally having you rescind the levy limit for 2025-2026 without mentioning budget, because this will be an extra budget levy. In other words, you'll still, each year that you increase your levy, you'll have a vote of the voters to adjust that levy number. And you'll decide whether or not that's going to be subject to a tax cap or not, and you'll go through the process each year doing it. In this particular year, if those two things get merged, and that's the gray area, the thing that I'm worried about and don't want to have trouble sleeping tonight. If they got merged, there's no question, right? Because we're probably talking about well, I don't want to guess, Sherry, but I think
It's about 2 million.
I was going to say about a $2 million debt service that we're talking about on a budget that's 4.5 right now. So
Close to 5.
you're talking about a 40% or more increase, 50% increase. So as to not have any question with doing it. So I don't think I'm concerned about the flip side of it all. We can always, if we have to, pass another one for your budget. I don't think you'll need to. But if you did, you could. If you didn't do that, in the 1 year that this is in effect, you probably are covered. But what I'm most concerned about is that because it's not clear how the issuance of capital debt works with your levy in this 1 year, that's why I'm suggesting.
Okay, so just can I repeat this back at you in my English?
Yeah.
Thanks. So what you're doing, what will happen is the school district will evaluate, I'm sure in concert with our people, what the best bond configuration is, what the best interest, what the best repayment is. And this is just related to the initial borrowing of the bond money, but not the $2 million repayment. That's what I'm hearing, but I'm not quite sure that's what you're saying.
No, it's related to the repayment, because the repayment's the only thing that you need to issue taxes to repay. It's not clear right now what the financial advisor is going to suggest that you do by the way of time. I assume with a project of this size, that you will probably have bans issued for at least one cycle and possibly two. Bans are bond anticipation notes. They're short-term borrowing governments do in anticipation of needing to issue long-term financing for a project. In your case, think of them as the construction notes, okay? They are 1 year in duration typically. I don't know whether you'll be able to just issue one and then immediately go to bonds, or if you may have to issue two bans before you can go to bonds. That's all stuff that frankly, the school district will decide based on what you tell them you need by way of cash flows on the project.
But usually, my understanding is that usually the bands are repaid by the bond. That's
That's
not
100%
something,
true.
that's not something that we have to put on our budget.
That's 100% true. And when the district first levies for the tax collection isn't clear at this point, which is why I'm suggesting that we pass this year to be covered in case. Right?
Thank you.
It is very possible that OSC and real property services, when we can get them to answer the question and say, yeah, you were fine, don't worry about it. But they'll also say, but there's no harm. It's good that you did it.
And then you would have to do it every subsequent year.
I don't think so. I think it's just like, when you do it for a tax year, if you don't do an increase the next year, you don't have to do it again. I don't think we'll have that situation. Okay. So again, I really hate to be uncertain, but I want to be certain to the make sure that we're all on the right page here, just in case.
Okay, I need someone to offer this resolution. Okay, Gail, a second. Laura, any further discussion? Those in favor signify by raising your hand or saying aye. Seeing no opposition, this motion carries unanimously.
So the last resolution that you've got to consider tonight is the one that is unique to school district public libraries. So when the legislature was trying to figure out back in the early 19s, early 20th century on how to best finance libraries and library construction and things of that nature. One of the things they did that was really smart, in my estimation, was to create these entities called school district public libraries. They saw that there were a lot of interconnections between what schools were doing and what libraries were doing. They understood that because libraries were special beings that couldn't have their own authority to issue debt under the Constitution, but still needed some way to be able to build facilities and build collections and provide services. They created a whole category within the education law of statutes that govern, and one particular statute that governs the powers of authority of school district public libraries, which Bethlehem is one of. Education Law 260 gives school district public libraries a number of very unique powers to essentially piggyback on the power and the authority of a central school district like Bethlehem to achieve financing for your projects, to collect taxes for your services. And it recognizes that school district public libraries, while they do things that are similar to school districts, really need to be able to function on their own and be able to govern themselves. And so it gives you powers to essentially say, even though I can't issue debt, I can tell the school district that we're going to have our same voters, same people who vote on us, vote on them, make the decision that we want to support a project, we want to build a new library, we want to use the capacity and resources of the school district in order to do that. So Education Law 260 sub 10 basically allows you to pass a resolution tonight to say, Bethlehem Central School District Board of Education, please hold an election for us to allow the voters to decide whether or not you can build a new library at a maximum cost, as we've talked about tonight, to issue bonds and other financing instruments to pay for that over the course of time, and to levy a tax on themselves to pay those bonds back. It's all provided for in Education Law 260. This resolution is your resolution to direct the Bethlehem Central School District Board of Education to call that special district meeting of the voters to vote upon a proposition authorizing the financing and construction of the Bethlehem Public Library building project, the scope that we've talked about. So again, the whereas clauses you've seen before this evening. The resolved clauses go in order. First, calling pursuant to your power, that election for December 12th, 2024, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. We're suggesting that it be held here. Ultimately, it will be the school district's election, so they'll decide the place, but we've told them that we're willing to hold it here, and so I've suggested that it be held here in the resolution. And once they call that meeting, to put the library bond proposition that's stated in the resolution on the ballot as the sole item. And you'll see that that is a three-part resolution. The first is that we do the overall project at $36,963,180. The second is that you authorize the district, or the voters authorize the district to issue bonds in that full amount, less the monies that you're going to contribute. Right now, not to exceed 2.9 million, right, $2,963,180. And that they then can authorize themselves to raise taxes in the maximum amount of the annual debt service, which is to be determined. Although I understand, Sherry, you have had some preliminary conversations with the financial advisor, so we have a range of what those are. We just don't have the final number here yet. So that will get plugged in when the district actually calls the meeting and knows what that number is next week. So I've said a lot. But this is the big Monty. This is the, we're ready to go. We're doing it December 12th. That's the number. Here's the question. And if anybody has questions, I can certainly answer.
Any questions? Any questions? I need someone to offer this resolution as well. I mean, I'll offer the resolution. It's in a second. You think I should? Okay,
No,
all right, so
am I offering or seconding?
you're offering, I guess.
All right, I'll offer the
I
resolution.
need a second. Okay, discussion on this resolution. Any discussion on the resolution?
I guess I would just say, for the purposes of the public that joined us today, that we did consider quite a lot this date and, yeah, that we took what we heard into consideration. I guess that's all I wanted to say.
I'm wondering if you resolved how the absentee ballots and the early voting will happen? There was discussion of the school district. Will it happen at the library or will that happen as it normally happens in May? I want to make sure that as many people as possible can vote.
Right, so I have also drafted the first draft of the resolution that the school district would need to pass next week. And it's similar to this one, but in addition to setting the question, it also has the legal notice that they will publish in the paper.
Okay.
It currently has all of that stuff being handled by the district clerk. Because it has to be their election under 260 sub 10. If they wanted our assistance or they wanted things to be returned here, I think we could come up with an agreement to do that. But I started with the default of it's their election. We'll have everything go to their offices at the district clerk. So absentee ballots will get mailed by them. Mandatory ballots for disabled will get mailed by them. Military ballots will get handled by them. Early voting ballots, it's all provided for in the.
And the entire expense would be the library's.
And it doesn't say that, but we have always operated under the thing that the expenses of this election can be pushed back to the library as part of the project costs.
Okay, any further questions or discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, I will call this for a vote to all those in favor signify by raising their hand or saying aye. Caroline, I can't see. Are you an aye?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All those that oppose, please signify by raising your hand. Thank you. Any abstentions? Okay, this motion carries as well. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you for your time. Okay, so,
Happy to be here.
yeah, we can take a couple minutes. Let's take a couple minutes. Maybe a couple minute break and then we'll go to the other part of the meeting. Good. Small events.
Sure.
Okay, the next item of business in the agenda is the review of previous meeting minutes. That should be page 51 through 55. Any questions on those? Discussion? Any issues?
I'll make a motion to accept the previous minutes.
A second.
Sarah, all those in favor, signify by saying yes or raise your hand. See no opposition, that motion carries. There's another minute of September 16th, which is a one pager on page 56. Motion for that. Or any questions on that, those meeting minutes? Okay, need a motion on those as well? Okay, I'll make a motion. Okay, Laura, second. Okay, Al, all those in favor, signify by saying yes or raise your hand. See no opposition, that motion carries as well. Okay. Going on to treasurer's report, Jerry.
Okay,
57.
so revenue has remained pretty static for the first quarter of the year. However, we have received 4.4 million in tax revenues from the school districts. We received that deposit on October 8th, so you'll see that in the October report. We're currently looking into investment options. We do have a CD that comes due November 4th. We're looking at rates, and we also need to take into consideration what potential expenditures we're going to have for the building project. So we don't want to tie up our funds too much that we really can't access them without penalty. But we'll have a finance committee meeting to talk about it. The auditors have wrapped up field work. We expect to have draft financial statements ready for review by the finance committee by the end of October. And the final statements be presented to the board at the November board meeting. The auditors will be here for that. And I don't know if anybody has any questions about the actual reports.
Any questions on the actual financial report or the warrant?
You know, you can see that expenses are tracking very much the same as at this time last year.
Is there anything out of the ordinary in there?
No,
So. Okay, I'll take a motion on the financial report.
Well, before we do that, I just wanted to report happily that where Sherry mentions that she's looking into investment options, Lisa had brought up some other options in an email and with the NYLAF, I think it was investment, and Sherry was already looking into it. So we're definitely on top of it and looking at all those options, as she said.
yeah, there might be some good opportunities with them. I've been playing phone tag with someone, but once I connect with them, I want to get more specifics. Frequently they change and how easy it will be to access our money. We need it.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
Okay. Michelle, on the second. Laura, any discussion, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying yes or raise your hand. Yeah, are you okay? Okay, so seeing no opposition, that motion is carried as well. Thank you. Going to personnel report.
All right, well, just something to note, there's no requested actions on the personnel report.
Okay, great.
Congratulations on the hire for the librarian 3 for children's services.
Thank you.
Yep.
We had a really nice pool, so.
Great, okay, seeing no actions, we're gonna go to the director.
Okay, I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. You can read the report, lots going on, lots for me about the building project. I've been living and breathing it for the past month. Lots of interesting programs, you can read through and just upcoming, lots of outreach. October is outreach month, so lots of trunk or treats and the lab today. lots of great outreach events coming. So I'll leave it at that. Numbers continue to track on slight increases in circulation, which I'm happy to see.
I would like to note that we had one program that had 138 people. We had a number of children's sessions that would also have totaled more than 100. Also that as the staff had hoped, Jeff is acknowledging staff participation in all of the activities. There's been follow through on that. But if you look at the numbers, there's evidence that there is need for a larger community.
Yes, also the BHA historical program had an attendance of 97. So yeah, we have a lot of programs that will meet, that encourage us to need more meeting space.
I just also want to say, I attended a program of, that they had a diplomat come in and be interviewed here that was excellent. I want to commend the library for that program. Any other questions for Jeff? Concerns, comments? Okay, new business, Ashley McGraw contract. So you'll see on page 74, there's a new contract, or is it an amendment to it?
It's an amendment of the existing contract. And
Okay.
the numbers were all laid out way back in the initial contract that was signed with them. But we're moving, so amendment 5, this amendment includes the remaining project phases and is written in such a way that is that highlighted? Anyway, the construction documents phase is the phase that we're in right now. And outlines the payment to Ashley McGraw for that. And then neither the bid nor construction administration obviously would be moving forward with either of those if the should the referendum fail to pass. So not obligated to those aspects of the contract out there.
So all of the remaining project phases are, if the bond passes, they're not working on construction
Yeah,
documents.
they're working on construction documents right now. So that's the event that we would be paying out right now.
So we have an obligation for that $600,000.
Yeah. That's the amendment 5 that we're here. It's more than just a 608. But
Correct. But
after the 608, it's contingent upon passage.
Why are we working on them before we have a bond passage? I know that they would like to work on them, but I'm wondering why we're committing to that when we don't know if we actually need them.
In this phase is all of the engineering work that has to do with flow rate tests with the town as far as the sprinkler systems and all the work that they're doing right now, the community engagement pieces that they're going to do over the next month and a half. That's something that construction documents.
I'm not comfortable with that amount of money. I would be more comfortable if we were paying them for what we needed to have done, the meetings and all of those things. So if the bond's going to pass on December 12th, and so that's December 12th, 2024, we're not talking about starting construction until 8 to 12 months later, correct?
Correct, because, and this is where we were going to go next, because of the state education department approval timeline. If contract documents or construction documents have to be done before that can get submitted to the state education.
Did they tell you how long the construction documents are going to take?
Their goal is to have those done. If there's a yes vote on the 12th, then have those construction documents ready to go for submission to SAD before Christmas.
Okay, so that's a month. I'm not comfortable with the amount of money without the passage of the bond. It's $600,000.
Yeah. You're free to vote no. I mean, fine. I understand your concern.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But just so I understand, we need to have those documents right after the vote. In order
If the
to
goal-
submit it to SED and get things done in a timely manner. All right. Okay,
Any other questions or discussion on this contract amendment?
I just really feel like somebody else is running our timeline. I just need to say that. If it's a month, to me, a month more is not a big deal. Okay, I'm done.
Any further discussion, questions? I'll take a motion on this. A motion to approve this contract.
make a motion to approve the contract for Ashley McGraw.
Michelle. Second,
I'll second it.
Sarah. Okay, all those in favor, signify by saying yes, raising your hand. Any opposition? Any abstentions? Okay, motion's carried. Okay, any other new business before the? You want to do the building education committee report?
Yeah,
I missed that. So
That's okay.
I'll do a new business.
Okay, I
Sorry
did
about that.
new,
Yeah,
old.
Okay,
Yeah, so we just wanted to give an update on the Building Project Education Committee. We had a meeting later in September. I would say it was very, very productive. We basically developed a tactical plan, assuming a December 12th date that includes very specific action items for all of us to take, and direction for staff, everything from outreach events and tabling opportunities at the library, in the community, at local businesses, to refining key messages and how to disseminate that to the public. We provided some direction on a special mailer, and Kristen has put together a draft of that that would go out to the public in November. Late November, but before Thanksgiving. We've got direction for social media, website content, email newsletters, etc. That is available to everyone, and we have another meeting tomorrow at 6 o'clock at the library. Anyone is welcome to come. But the key thing is we're going to need to start putting names next to action items and all sort of play a role in making sure that the public is aware of the project, we can answer their questions, and that they're aware of the vote date. So if you haven't already seen this, let us know. We'll make sure you have a chance to see it. But we'll meet tomorrow and make some more decisions. I'm sure Kristen is going to have maybe more information for us. I know there was a lot. She was waiting for the final renderings, which we have now. So I expect there'll be lots of drafts for us to look at. So just, there's a lot of work for us all to do in the next, 7 weeks or so. But I think we have a pretty solid plan for outreach, and hopefully the Friends of the Library will also be a partner in that, as well, and can complement the efforts that we're going to do as a library. Happy to answer any questions or anything.
The packet that you're referencing, have you emailed that?
We have a shared folder now, and everyone, I think, did you send that to every full board? I think so. So everyone has access to it, but we can re-up it.
Where's the shared folder?
It's in Gmail. That may be the one. The link went out.
Yeah,
We'll get you access to it.
okay, okay.
And as Laura said, there's a meeting tomorrow. Make communication throughout the whole process.
I'll just chime in and say that I did, we talked about it at, the President's Council meeting last week. So, I basically just let them know that it was coming, and that we were probably sure the date was going to be December 12th, even though it was not set in stone at that time. And asked the other presidents of various PTAs if we could ask them to disseminate information when the time comes through their social medias. And we'll see what they do, but they seemed like they were agreeable to doing that for us.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Encourage all to come tomorrow if they can. Okay, going into old business. Any old business? Nothing.
Actually, I think I have something that might go under new business.
Okay,
Although I'm not even sure that this is a board issue, but I think one of the way that patrons most interact with the library is checking out books and having books on hold and having books in transit from other destination or from other libraries. I did personally have an experience where something was in transit for a full week. It was coming from Washington Avenue. I could walk to Washington Avenue and back in less time than that. And it didn't seem, I did speak with the information desk and circulation desk and you know, tried to be helpful, but no one could really say why or really no one, it seemed to investigate too much further. And I'm just wondering, is there a way that we can somehow use Patron Point in some way so that a flag goes up? I mean, clearly there was a problem. There, something must have happened. The book fell off a shelf or something like that. But that the library can see, well, hey, this patron is waiting a really long time for something in transit. Just doesn't usually take a week.
Yes,
It's
that's,
never been my experience that it's taken.
that's longer than we would expect from a transit status.
So clearly something had happened, but it seemed like no one knew, no one was looking at, no one even knew to look that maybe something was happening. So I thought because this is the way that patrons very often interact with the library, more so than HVAC systems and asbestos, you know, even though those things are much more important than my, you know, holiday paperback. But it is the way that people interact most with the library. And if there's a way that we can red flag these issues when they come up and someone can actually be looking at this and saying, you know, maybe we shouldn't interlibrary loan with that particular location if it's always an issue, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I think the answer would have been for us to place another hold for you. And even though, I mean, I'm guessing that the book is a popular.
It is not.
It's not, okay.
It was not at all, actually, and it did come in, but late this afternoon, so that was a full week in transit, a full week.
Okay.
So, but I just thought I would bring that to the board's attention. I think it is important to keep the way that people actually get books is.
Very important.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
okay, any other new, old, or future business? Okay, any public participation?
Yes.
Sure.
Excuse me, thank you. I want to, first off, congratulate the architects who are no longer here, but also the board and the library for carrying the project forward to this point. I think it's been a lot of work over the last couple of years. A little bit of it in the last 8 or 9 months or so. Now comes the critical point, and that's getting approval for the bond proposal in December. I heard concerns expressed tonight that I've heard in the past about the cost of the project, about the size of the project, about the date votes, everything. And unfortunately, I don't think the architects did too much tonight to answer any of those questions. And I think it's critical that you get answers to those questions out to the public. I really think Building Education Committee is doing something, and I see you have a small brochure there that's in draft form. And I question whether there's enough information in it to fully answer some of the questions that are being asked. And I think I had previously suggested using an issue of the library newsletter to provide a more detailed and structured explanation of the project costs, why it is costing so much, and so forth, so that the public is fully informed. And I think it's critical that happen. Just on a totally unrelated topic, the vote's going to occur apparently on December 12th, and there is the prospect that the bond will not pass. And I think it might be important for the board to get some feedback from voters, if that is the case, on why it did not pass. One option, and maybe this is something you've already considered, is at the voting site itself, allowing, see what I'm shaking his head, allowing for voters to fill out anonymous cards, giving an explanation of what they thought of the bond proposal, whether they liked it or didn't like it. And I think that could give some valuable information that would be useful if you have to go through an alternate. Thank you.
Okay, I have a few email comments from Bonnie, who spoke earlier, but she used her 3 minutes in public comment. So I'm gonna use her time now at the end to read her emails. So I got emails from her that said, I request that you read aloud my questions and your responses to be included in the minutes of the next library board meeting. How much has been spent to date on the building project, i.e. architect studies, surveys, attorneys, et cetera, et cetera. Please itemize and be specific about all expenditures thus far. In this amount, is this amount part of the $36 million? What is the funding source of the money spent to date? Please post my questions and your answers on the Bethlehem Library website in the section entitled Building Project Updates Facts. And then a frequent patron of BPL, same person, a frequent patron of BPL, and very much enjoy going and perusing the shelves. I have 2 questions for you. I recently sent you an email with a question about how much has been spent so far. The library expansion have yet to hear back. What's the turnaround time for your response? Is there a law regarding how much notice must be given to the Bethlehem residents prior to the library bond vote? If yes, how much notice must be given? If no, how much notice will be given? Again, please read my questions aloud in responses to the next library board meeting, and please send me an email response, which I did. And then last, have there been any other library bond votes in Bethlehem over the past 10 years? If yes, please specify what those bonds were for. And if the votes passed, if they did pass, what was the annual average tax increase for the household and for how many years? Please read my questions aloud at the upcoming meeting next week and respond with answers. And that's a simple factual answer. And it's no, there haven't been any library bonds in the past 10 years.
All right, and thank you for sharing with us your comprehensive answer to her questions.
Okay, any other public participation? So the next order of business, I'd like to go into executive session to talk about an issue with the school district. Need advice of counsel, so I need a motion to go into advice to go into executive for purpose of getting advice from counsel.
Legal, yeah.
We enter an executive session to seek legal advice from the library's attorney for exemption 1808(3) matters confidential by federal and state law.
So moved.
Second. Gail, okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying yes. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. So we'll go into executive session. Short executive session.
If you want my copy just in the meantime, I didn't have that. It was a Google Doc, and so there's a whole bunch of files.
Was it emailed?